Welcome to Crossdressing. The apartment felt smaller than ever that night, as if the walls had quietly leaned inward while I wasn't paying attention. The stale scent of cold noodles and dust clung to the air. I sat hunched on my sagging couch, television flashing colors across my face, though I couldn't have said what was playing. The noise filled the room, but it didn't reach me. At 21, I was technically an adult. Bills had my name on them. So did the lease. But I felt unfinished, like a sketch someone had abandoned halfway through. My days dissolved into one another: wake up, scroll, eat, exist, sleep. Repeat. Nothing sharp enough to leave a mark. When my phone vibrated against the coffee table, the sudden sound made my chest tighten. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Almost. Hello? My voice came out thinner than I intended. I've been observing you, a man replied smoothly. His tone wasn't threatening. If anything, it was composed, too composed. And I believe you're ideal for something exceptional. I laughed awkwardly. Do I know you? That's irrelevant for now. A pause. Controlled. Measured. What matters is that I can offer you a chance to become someone extraordinary. And I'll compensate you generously. Compensate me. My bank account flashed through my mind. Overdue notifications. Declined transactions. What exactly are you offering? I asked, unable to hide my curiosity. A role, he said. As my partner. My pulse stumbled. Partner? You would present yourself as my girlfriend. Silence swallowed the space between us. It sounded absurd. Unreal. Yet the certainty in his voice unsettled me more than the proposal itself. Why me? Because you're adaptable, he replied, almost gently. You don't realize it yet, but you can be reshaped. Refined. Elevated. The words should have offended me. Instead, they lingered. He spoke of money, of attention, of walking into rooms and being noticed. Of transformation. Of stepping out of the dull outline I'd been living in. You would dress the part, he added calmly. Look the part. In time, you might even feel it. I stared at the dark reflection in my blank television screen, pale face, uncertain eyes. Ordinary. Replaceable. Think about it, he finished. I'll contact you tomorrow. The line disconnected. I remained there long after, staring at myself. The same person. The same life. But something inside me had shifted, a quiet spark, dangerous and bright. The next morning, sunlight cut through my blinds like interrogation beams. I hadn't slept much. Every possible outcome had replayed behind my eyelids. A knock came at the door. Confident. Precise. I hesitated before opening it. She stood there like she belonged in a different world entirely, poised, self-assured, effortlessly striking. Her eyes assessed me in a single sweep. So, she said with a faint smile, stepping inside without waiting. You're the one. I don't even know what I'm doing, I admitted. That's why I'm here, she replied. To prepare you. Her gaze lingered, not cruel, not kind. Analytical. Posture, she said, circling me slowly. Expression. Presence. All of it can change. She handed me a mirror. Look. I obeyed. The reflection staring back at me seemed smaller than I remembered. Shoulders curved inward. Jaw tense. Eyes unsure of where to land. For this to work, she continued, you need to see what can be improved. Not what you think you are, but what you could become. Could become. The idea pressed against my ribs. This wasn't just about clothes. Or pretending. It was about stepping into a version of myself I had never allowed to exist. Fear tightened my throat. But beneath it, unmistakable and undeniable, was anticipation. And as I stood there, staring at every flaw I'd memorized over the years, I realized something unsettling. I didn't just want to escape my old life. I wanted to be transformed. And whether that meant losing myself or finally finding a hidden part of me, I wasn't sure yet. But I knew I wasn't walking away. I stared at my reflection, noticing every hard edge I had memorized over the years, the sharp jaw, the guarded eyes, the posture that tried to disappear before anyone could truly look. I had spent so long shrinking myself that invisibility felt like a second skin. "You're not hopeless," she murmured, standing just behind me. "You're unfinished." Before I could respond, her hands adjusted my shoulders, nudging them back. She tilted my chin upward with steady fingers. "Stop folding into yourself," she instructed. "Take up space." Her touch wasn't cruel, but it was precise. Intentional. As if she were reshaping something fragile yet stubborn. I felt exposed under her scrutiny, resentful of how easily she handled me, and yet secretly craving the focus. For once, someone was paying attention. "Your voice," she added thoughtfully. "It won't fit the image we're building." She handed me a small recorder. "Speak." The first playback made me wince. Too rough. Too uncertain. It sounded like someone trying to apologize for existing. She coached me through it, slowing my pace, softening my tone, guiding where to let my words linger. Again. And again. With each repetition, something shifted. The sound that came back through the speaker was lighter. Controlled. Intentional. It didn't feel natural, but it didn't feel impossible either. Next, she unzipped a suitcase. Inside were fabrics that looked like they belonged in glossy storefront windows, soft textures, muted pastels, flowing silhouettes. My hands hovered uncertainly over them. "I don't know if I can," I admitted. "You can," she replied simply. "Or you can return to being overlooked." That was enough. The material was cool against my skin, unfamiliar in a way that made my pulse jump. She helped adjust seams, smooth lines, tug fabric into place until it sat just right. "Look." I turned toward the mirror. The figure staring back at me felt like a stranger paused mid-introduction. Softer lines. A different posture. A version of myself that seemed to know where to place her hands, how to angle her head. "I look different." She smiled faintly. Different means visible. We practiced walking. Slower steps. Balanced movements. She corrected every shift of weight, every misplaced glance. I stumbled more than once, cheeks burning. Yet beneath the embarrassment was something startling. Excitement. When she finally guided me outside, the daylight felt brighter than usual. Each step in heels demanded focus. Every passerby felt like a spotlight waiting to switch on. Most people walked by without a glance. But one older man paused briefly, offering a casual smile. "Lovely," he commented before continuing down the street. The words struck deeper than I expected. Heat rushed to my face, part shame, part disbelief. She leaned closer, her voice low. "You see? You're no longer background noise." The walk back home felt surreal. Each step carried a mixture of dread and exhilaration. I didn't know whether I was playing a role or discovering one. Back in my apartment, I studied myself again. The version I had been seemed farther away than yesterday. The next morning, the room felt charged, like something irreversible had begun. I stood before the mirror, searching for the familiar outline I'd always known. It was still there. But blurred. The dress from the day before rested against my frame differently now, not as costume, but as possibility. I traced the reflection with uncertain eyes. A knock interrupted my thoughts. She entered with the same composed confidence, carrying another bag. "Today," she said smoothly, setting it down, "we deepen the transformation." My stomach tightened. "How?" I asked quietly. Her smile was calm. Certain. You'll see. Her smile carried that same blend of warmth and authority, as if she were both mentor and puppeteer. Now, she said, setting a case of cosmetics on the vanity, we refine. The word felt heavier than it should have. She guided me into the chair, turning it so I faced the mirror. Brushes fanned out before me like unfamiliar tools in a surgeon's tray. Powders, creams, colors I had only ever seen from a distance. We begin simply, she explained. Even the canvas. Then bring it to life. The first sweep of foundation was cool against my skin. It blurred freckles, softened shadows, erased the tiny flaws I'd memorized for years. With every careful motion, my reflection shifted further from the face I'd known. Relax, she murmured when she noticed my tension. You're not disappearing. You're evolving. Blush followed, then subtle shades along my eyes. She worked with focused precision, reshaping lines, lifting brows, defining contours. My breathing slowed despite myself. When she finally placed the lipstick in my hand, I froze. This is the step that scares you, she observed quietly. I swallowed. It feels final. It's not an ending, she replied. It's a decision. My hand trembled as I applied the color. When I opened my eyes, the person staring back at me looked confident, almost daring. I barely recognized myself. Yet I couldn't look away. Stand, she instructed gently. The walk that followed felt like balancing on a tightrope. Heels clicked uncertainly against the floor. She stayed close, correcting my steps, adjusting the tilt of my hips, reminding me to slow down. Presence, she whispered. Not hesitation. We stepped outside. Morning air brushed against my skin, cool and startling. The world felt louder, sharper. Every sound seemed amplified. I was hyper-aware of my movements, my breathing, the sway of fabric. A jogger passed by, offering a brief glance before looking forward again. It was nothing. And yet it felt like everything. Notice that, she said softly. You're visible now. Visible. The word settled into my chest. Hours passed in small exercises, walking straighter, speaking softer, holding eye contact just a second longer than felt comfortable. Each adjustment felt like peeling back a layer I hadn't known I wore. Later, she introduced more delicate clothing, pieces meant to shape posture and confidence rather than simply cover skin. The textures were unfamiliar but oddly grounding. You're learning control, she told me. Control of how you present yourself. Of how you're perceived. When she left the room briefly, I turned to the mirror again. The reflection wasn't just a disguise anymore. There was curiosity in those eyes. Strength, even. A quiet question lingering beneath the surface. Maybe this wasn't about erasing who I had been. Maybe it was about discovering parts one had never allowed myself to explore. The door clicked open behind me. Ready for the real test, she asked. My heartbeat quickened. Cafes. Streets. Conversations. The world won't be staged. Fear surged through me, sharp and instinctive. Every part of me wanted to retreat into the safety of anonymity. But another part of braver, newly awakened, wanted to see what would happen if I didn't. And for the first time, I wasn't sure which side would win. Somewhere beneath the fear, beneath the instinct to retreat, there was a quiet, defiant curiosity. I wanted to know if I could withstand it. If I could survive being seen. If I could be beautiful. When we stepped onto the crowded sidewalk, the sound of my heels striking pavement felt impossibly loud. Final. The city didn't pause for me, cars rolled past, buses sighed at stops, people hurried with coffee cups in hand, but I felt as though a spotlight had snapped on overhead. The air carried the scent of roasted coffee beans, warm bread drifting from a nearby bakery, exhaust fumes curling into the morning chill, and the faint trace of strangers' perfume as they brushed by. She walked at my side, effortless and poised. Occasionally her fingers hovered near my wrist, not quite touching, just enough to remind me she was there. Confidence, she murmured, is something you wear long before anyone notices your clothes. I straightened slightly, though my stomach twisted. The lace beneath my dress felt delicate, unfamiliar. My ankles protested with every careful step. Still, I kept moving. Most people didn't look twice. But some did. A lingering glance. A whispered comment. A subtle pause mid-stride. Wow, she's beautiful. The words floated back to me from somewhere behind. My breath caught. Heat rushed to my face, but beneath the embarrassment was something else, an electric pulse of pride. I caught my reflection in a store window as we passed. Sunlight glinted off glossed lips and carefully lined eyes. The figure staring back at me looked composed, almost luminous. Don't hesitate, she said quietly, her tone firm now. Attention only feels dangerous when you fight it. We slipped into a small cafe to continue the test. The barista looked up as I approached the counter. His polite smile lingered just a second longer than necessary. Morning, he said. My voice wavered as I placed my order, the practiced softness threatening to crack. She gave me an approving nod once we stepped aside with our drinks. See, she said. You didn't disappear. That was the strangest part. I hadn't. Every glance felt amplified. Some expressions held admiration. Others curiosity. A few skepticism. Each one landed somewhere deep inside me. I told myself I hated it. But my pulse betrayed me. Outside again, we paused near a boutique. The window reflected us side by side, her calm certainty and my fragile imitation of it. I studied the image. For the first time, I didn't flinch. The person staring back didn't look weak. She looked aware. Vulnerable, yes, but present. You're adapting, she said, noticing the shift in my expression. Soon, being seen won't feel like a threat. It will feel like choice. We continued walking. My heartbeat synced with the rhythm of my steps. A group of college boys approached, laughing among themselves. One glanced my way and slowed, offering a playful wink. Hey, gorgeous. My stomach dropped. Shame and adrenaline collided. I expected to crumble under it. But I didn't. The discomfort was sharp, but braided with something startling. Validation. Power. A strange awareness that I had caused a reaction. She noticed the flicker in my eyes. There, she said softly. That's what visibility feels like. It can overwhelm you, or you can learn to command it. By the time we returned to the apartment, my hands trembled. Not from the heels or the walking, but from the emotional whiplash of the day. Exposure had stripped something away. But it had also revealed something new. And as I caught my reflection one more time before removing the makeup, I realized the fear hadn't disappeared. It had simply begun sharing space with confidence. By the time I was alone that night, the emotions had tangled into something impossible to separate, shame brushing against pride, fear laced with exhilaration. It felt like standing too close to a fire, overwhelming, but impossible to step away from. I faced the mirror again. The reflection staring back looked polished, deliberate. The version of me from only days ago already seemed distant, like a photograph left too long in the sun, slowly fading at the edges. I touched my cheek, then my lips, as if confirming they were real. Who am I becoming? I whispered. My phone buzzed. A message preview lit the screen. Is that really you? The name attached to it belonged to someone from my old world, someone who knew me before any of this began. My stomach tightened. I hadn't imagined the two lives colliding so soon. I stared at the text, thumb hovering over the keyboard. If I answered, I risked exposing the fragile transformation I was still trying to understand. If I ignored it, I would be cutting another thread tying me to who I used to be. Before I could decide, there was a knock, measured, familiar. She stepped inside without waiting for permission, clipboard tucked under her arm. "Good," she said when she noticed the phone in my hand. "You're being noticed." "That's not good," I muttered. "It's both," she corrected calmly. "Recognition is unstable. But attention? Attention can be directed." She moved toward the mirror, studying my reflection as if evaluating a project. "The world now sees you differently," she continued. "That means you must be consistent." "Consistent?" I echoed. "Aligned," she clarified. "In movement. In voice. In thought." The word lingered in the air like a quiet command. Over the following days, the shift deepened. It wasn't just about appearance anymore. It seeped into conversations, habits, even silence. Friends from my past called. I let most of the calls ring out. When I did answer, my words felt rehearsed, carefully measured. Sometimes she stood nearby, listening, not interrupting, just observing. I began noticing how often she corrected small things. "Shoulders back. Slow down your speech. Don't fidget." Even the way I held a coffee cup became something to refine. It wasn't harsh. It was methodical. Rules appeared gradually. Not spoken all at once, but implied. No spontaneous outings. No impulsive decisions. Daily journaling, thoughts, reactions, reflections. "Awareness builds control," she explained. Sometimes her guidance felt supportive. Other times, suffocating. One evening, as I sat quietly after another long day, she stepped closer. "You're shedding layers," she said, tracing her finger lightly along my sleeve. "That discomfort you feel? It's transition." I didn't know whether to feel empowered or erased. The strangest part was how addictive it felt. The structure. The attention. The validation when I succeeded. Each compliment from strangers sent a flicker of satisfaction through me. Each correction from her tightened the invisible threads holding this new identity together. Then came the next test. A crowded shopping district. Bright storefronts. Noise and movement everywhere. "You'll speak for yourself," she said before we stepped onto the sidewalk. No hesitation. Inside a boutique, I asked questions about sizes and fabrics. My voice wavered at first, but steadied. The cashier smiled politely. A stranger complimented my outfit. I smiled back. It felt practiced. It also felt real. Outside again, the noise of the city wrapped around us. I realized something unsettling. I wasn't just playing along anymore. Part of me was adapting. Part of me wanted to see how far this could go. And part of me wondered, quietly, whether I was shaping this new identity. Or whether it was shaping me. Every conversation, every glance from a stranger, felt like sandpaper against the identity I used to carry. The old version of me wasn't gone yet, but it was wearing thin. I caught myself reacting in ways that didn't feel entirely mine. Laughing when someone flirted. Blushing when attention lingered a little too long. Feeling a confusing rush of satisfaction when compliments landed. At a boutique, while I stood in front of a mirror adjusting a dress, a man nearby paused and said casually, "You look incredible." My face heated instantly. I could have dismissed it. Could have reminded myself this was temporary, a performance. But a small, unfamiliar part of me didn't want to. It wanted the moment to last. Back at the apartment, exhaustion hit me all at once. I sank down in front of the mirror, staring at the reflection. It wasn't just clothing or makeup anymore. There was posture, expression, presence, something internal shifting along with the external. I didn't recognize the person looking back. Yet I couldn't look away. Interesting, her voice came from behind me. I hadn't heard her enter. "The transition is visible now," she said calmly, studying me through the mirror. You feel it too, don't you? I swallowed, unable to answer. Because the truth was uncomfortable. I did. That night, my phone rang again, another voice from my past. You sound different, my friend said carefully. Are you really, you? The question lingered long after the call ended. The apartment felt smaller than usual, shadows stretching across the walls in the dim light. I curled into the couch, still wearing the dress from earlier. A faint trace of perfume clung to the fabric, unfamiliar yet strangely comforting. When I glanced toward the mirror again, a chill ran through me. Soft features. Glossed lips. Wide, uncertain eyes. I didn't know who I was looking at anymore. And part of me was starting not to mind. She appeared beside me as quietly as ever. You handled today well, she said, her tone approving. People see you differently now. They respond to you. Respond, I repeated softly, testing the word. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope. There's someone I want you to meet, she continued. An associate. This will help you understand whether you can manage attention outside my guidance. My stomach tightened. What do you mean? A controlled introduction, she said. Nothing more. The next afternoon, we walked into a small cafe tucked along a quieter street. My heels felt unsteady against the pavement, my nerves sharper than usual. Then I saw him. He sat near the window with a book open in front of him, dark hair falling slightly across his forehead. When we entered, he looked up, and his eyes settled on me immediately. Not just a glance. Recognition. Curiosity. Something else I wasn't ready to name. Sit, she murmured, guiding me into the chair across from him. My hands trembled as I folded them in my lap. He smiled gently. Hi, he said. I feel like I've seen you before. A spike of panic shot through me. Did he know me? From before all this? Could he see through everything, the makeup, the clothes, the careful posture? Thank you, I managed, voice unsteady. He tilted his head slightly, studying me with a quiet intensity. Not judgmental. Not mocking. Just attentive. And for reasons I didn't fully understand, that gaze made my heart race more than any compliment had. Because for the first time since this transformation began, I wondered whether someone might be looking past the surface. And seeing me. You're beautiful, he said quietly. The words landed somewhere deep in my chest, heavier than they should have. Heat rushed to my face, embarrassment prickling across my skin, but beneath it, something warmer stirred. A fragile, dangerous excitement I didn't know how to process. From across the table, she watched in silence, her expression calm but unmistakably pleased. See? Her earlier words echoed in my mind. Attention changes you. Conversation drifted forward in a blur. I couldn't tell whether we spoke for 10 minutes or an hour. Time felt distorted, stretched thin between nervous laughter and moments of quiet eye contact. He asked gentle questions, listened carefully to my answers, and smiled in a way that made me feel unexpectedly delicate. Like I mattered. Each laugh, each lingering glance, chipped away at the identity I'd clung to for years. The old version of me, guarded, invisible, felt further away with every passing second. Then he reached forward and brushed a loose strand of hair away from my face. My breath caught. The gesture was simple, almost instinctive, but the closeness sent my heart racing. What are you doing? I asked softly, voice trembling. He didn't pull back right away. His eyes stayed on mine, warm and steady. I like who you are, he said. Even if you're still figuring that out. The sincerity in his tone unsettled me more than any flirtation could have. I didn't know whether to retreat, to laugh it off, or to let myself lean into the moment. No one had ever looked at me like that before. No one had ever made me feel wanted. And the awareness that she was watching, observing, evaluating, tightened something inside me. Part of me resisted the reaction I was having. Another part couldn't stop it. By the time we left the cafe, my emotions felt tangled beyond recognition. Shame collided with excitement. Curiosity with guilt. Longing with fear. She didn't say a word on the walk back. She didn't need to. The faint, knowing curve of her smile told me everything. I was changing. That night, I paused again in front of the mirror. The person staring back looked brighter somehow, eyes more alert, posture more assured. There was a spark there now, something alive and uncertain. And maybe, open. The next day brought another step. The sun was high, casting sharp shadows across the street as we approached a beauty salon. My legs ached from the heels, but there was also a strange sense of pride in managing them. People glanced our way as we passed, and I felt that familiar contradiction, exposed yet somehow newly visible. Inside, the scent of hair products and perfume wrapped around me immediately. Mirrors covered the walls, reflecting endless versions of confident women moving with ease. And there I stood among them, caught between imitation and possibility, painfully aware of how much I still had to learn. And how far I had already come. "Sit," she said, guiding me into the salon chair. "Today, you'll learn to survive the world's gaze, and to thrive under it." A stylist approached, cheerful and oblivious to the storm swirling within me. Warm hands massaged my scalp as she washed my hair, and I shivered despite myself. The intimacy, the attention, the helplessness, it was overwhelming. "Relax," my guide murmured close to my ear. "Every touch, every glance, every comment, it's all part of your training. You are learning to exist as someone else, someone perfect." I closed my eyes as the stylist began to blow dry my hair, soft waves curling around my face, blurring the hard angles I had always believed defined me. In the mirrors, a stranger emerged, one I both feared and found myself beginning to accept. Then came makeup, meticulous and deliberate. Each layer of foundation, blush, eyeshadow, mascara, lipstick washed away more of the boy I had been, sculpting a version of me that felt unreal, fragile, and dangerously compelling. "You're doing well," my guide said softly. "But remember, beauty is a performance." Today, the audience was not the mirror alone, it was the world beyond these salon walls. The stylist leaned in, inspecting every detail, adjusting lashes, perfecting lips, smiling like this was nothing more than routine. Yet every gaze felt like a probe, and I was acutely aware of my vulnerability. A woman waiting nearby whispered just loud enough, "She's gorgeous." So pretty. Heat surged to my cheeks. Shame, pride, fear, desire, all tangled in a dizzying knot. I wanted to shrink into the chair, to disappear, yet part of me craved the attention, wanted to feel it again. Next came the practice, walking in heels across the polished floor, perfecting smiles, adjusting my posture, refining gestures. Each misstep, every nervous glance, reminded me of the eyes I imagined on me, judging silently from every reflection. Finally, my guide had arranged a small showcase. A semicircle of men and women sat around, quietly observing, whispering, clapping politely. I walked the makeshift runway, heels clicking, dress swaying, body moving in ways I had only begun to understand. My heart raced. Sweat pricked my temples. My face burned, a storm of embarrassment and exhilaration. Then a voice, soft, deliberate, rose from the circle. "You're beautiful." A shiver ran through me, equal parts thrill and fear. My guide watched from the sidelines, lips curved in a knowing smile. "See?" Her voice whispered in my mind. Humiliation. Exposure. Attention. Once they awaken it inside you, you can never deny it. I resented her for seeing through me, and I despised myself for craving it. I hated the way my body betrayed me, responding to each compliment, each lingering glance, the subtle, intoxicating thrill of being observed. By the time we stepped out of the salon, I was trembling, not just from fatigue, but from the whirlwind of shame, pride, embarrassment, exhilaration, and something unnamed, lurking in the spaces between. Alone, I caught my reflection later that night. The boy I had been seemed swallowed by the layers of makeup, fabric, and heels. Where he had once stood, a girl stared back, alive, poised, and dangerously aware of the power she now wielded with a single look. I traced my cheek with a trembling finger, and then my phone buzzed. A photo. Someone from my past had recognized me at the salon, and already it was spreading through my social circle. My legs ached, my feet burned from the heels, and my cheeks still stung from the attention I had endured. The city felt sharp, almost cruel. Streetlights pierced my vision, shop windows reflected back an unfamiliar version of me, and whispers of strangers seemed to echo in my mind. She guided me into a quiet cafe, away from the chaos. "Sit," she said softly but with unmistakable authority. "You need to process today." I sank into the chair, the weight of the dress and the invisible chains of expectation pressing down on me. My reflection in the polished tabletop was foreign, soft, fragile, seductive. I hated the way my chest fluttered at the thought of being seen. "You're tired," she observed, reading me like an open book. "Good. Exhaustion is part of the process. It breaks down resistance." Resistance. The word struck sharply. At first, I had fought every step, every glance, every whispered compliment. Now, resistance felt meaningless. My body moved before my mind could protest. My voice softened, my posture obeyed, my identity frayed at the edges. She reached across the table, her fingers brushing mine lightly. "Look at me," she said. "The boy you were, is gone, isn't he?" I couldn't speak. The truth was terrifying. He was gone, or at least buried beneath layers of makeup, fabric, and carefully measured poise. Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes, but I blinked them away. I hated her. I hated myself even more. Every moment of compliance, every step I had taken as someone else, had made me complicit in my own undoing. She leaned closer, as if sensing my inner turmoil. "It's okay to feel everything," she whispered. "Embarrassment, shame, excitement, fear, all of it proves you're alive. All of it proves you're becoming her." Her words pierced me. I wanted to scream, to run, to reclaim the boy I had been. But my reflection in the cafe window told a different story. This girl, this version of me, was already taking shape, and there was no going back. The girl in the mirror had wide, luminous eyes, cheeks brushed with color, and a tentative, almost questioning smile. She existed fully, undeniably present in a way the boy I had been never had. Hours passed in near silence, the quiet punctuated only by the soft hum of the city outside and the faint tick of the clock, each moment stretching tension tighter across my chest. By evening, I could barely stand, yet when I glimpsed myself later, there was a flicker, a faint, dangerous thrill, in my own gaze. The boy who had shrunk from attention, who had longed to remain unseen, was slipping further away. And then it broke. I collapsed to the floor of my apartment, alone. Heels clattered, the dress wrinkled, makeup smudged from exhaustion. Humiliation, fatigue, relentless observation, all collided and toppled over me at once. I cried, choked, laughed nervously, and whispered to the stranger in the mirror, "Who am I?" A soft knock interrupted my despair. She entered, moving like a shadow, kneeling beside me. Her hand rested lightly on my shoulder. "This," she said softly, "is when the transformation anchors itself. Breaking is necessary before becoming." I wanted to recoil, to claw back the last fragments of the boy I had been, but my body betrayed me, shivering at her touch. My mind lingered uncomfortably on the thrill, the silent authority she exuded. "Tomorrow," she whispered, "we present you fully. You will be seen, and part of you will not want to hide." I stared at the mirror one last time before bed. The girl reflected back smiled faintly, and I felt a tangle of fear, shame, and something dangerously close to desire curling in my chest. Morning came with sunlight streaming harshly through the curtains, indifferent, as if mocking the storm of anxiety twisting inside me. Today was unlike any other. She had arranged a public showcase, a gathering where strangers, friends, even ghosts from my past could observe, judge, and admire me. I studied my reflection. The boy, timid, hesitant, invisible, was gone. In his place stood a girl with soft, radiant skin, carefully sculpted makeup, and the deliberate poise of someone trained to be watched. My heart thundered. Fear tangled with excitement. Shame mixed with a thrill I barely recognized. She appeared quietly, clutch in hand, a small arsenal of lipstick, powder, and the invisible power she wielded with effortless authority. "It's time," she said, her voice warm yet commanding. "Remember everything, your posture, your smile, your voice, your presence." I nodded, hands trembling. Every instinct screamed to run, to tear off the heels, the dress, to hide from the world. And yet another part of me, awakened, eager, terrified, leaned forward, ready. The venue was alive with movement, chatter, music. Every eye seemed to fix on me, lingering, measuring. The weight of their gaze pressed against my chest. Legs quivered with each step and heels. Every smile was performance, every glance a trial, every heartbeat an ordeal. "Walk," she whispered, and I obeyed. "Show them you belong, or they'll glimpse the boy hiding underneath," she whispered. I forced my legs forward, heels striking the polished floor with sharp clicks. Eyes followed me, whispers floated, smiles lingered. The attention was dizzying, electric. Every compliment, every glance, tore at my shame and ignited something darkly thrilling inside me. Then a familiar voice cut through the hum. I froze. A face from my past, a college friend, was staring, recognition flickering in their eyes. "Is that really you?" they asked. My stomach twisted. Panic surged. I wanted to vanish, to melt into the crowd. Her hand pressed lightly against my lower back. "Don't run. Own it. Show them what you choose them to see." I tried. I smiled, laughed, moved with the carefully rehearsed grace she had drilled into me. And, impossibly, it worked. They whispered behind cupped hands, not in mockery, but in admiration. My body hummed with fear, shame, and an unspoken, guilty excitement. Then the next challenge arrived. A photographer asked for a portrait. She guided me with gentle authority, adjusting my posture, tilting my chin, softening my gaze. Each click of the shutter hammered home a truth I could no longer deny. The boy I had been was fading, and the girl I had become was claiming every space around me. I drifted through the crowd, catching my reflection in mirrors, shop windows, even strangers' phones. Everywhere, she stared back, a girl undeniably feminine, undeniably present, undeniably seen. By the end of the evening, exhaustion pressed down like lead. My feet screamed, cheeks burned, and my mind reeled from the constant scrutiny. And yet, I could not deny the thrill, the addictive pull that surged every time someone whispered beautiful, every time admiration lingered a second too long. Back at the apartment, I collapsed into a chair, trembling and drained. She knelt beside me, brushing a loose strand of hair from my face. "You've done well," she murmured, voice soft but firm. "But this is only the beginning. The world has glimpsed her tonight. Soon, everyone you know will see." I looked into the mirror. The girl reflected back no longer hesitated, no longer hid. She was alive, poised, aware of the dangerous pull of her own power. Deep down, I knew the boy I had been would never return completely. My phone buzzed. A message from someone I had once trusted. "I can't believe this. Is that really you? Meet me tomorrow." The words sent a jolt through me, part fear, part exhilaration, and somewhere inside, anticipation. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the curtains, warm and unrelenting, as if the world itself was exposing me. My reflection in the mirror no longer felt foreign. She stared back, alive, present. Soft curves, delicate features, painted lips, and eyes that flickered with a strange mix of uncertainty and a dawning self-awareness. And yet, a shadow of doubt lingered. The message from yesterday still glowed on my phone. "I can't believe this. Is that really you? Meet me tomorrow. My stomach twisted. The boy I had been wanted to flee, hide, disappear entirely. But the girl I had become, she pulsed with curiosity, tinged with an unfamiliar thrill. She appeared in the doorway, calm, composed, and commanding as always. You're thinking about him, she said, a knowing smile curling at her lips. I froze. I don't know what I feel, I admitted, voice quivering. It's confusing. She moved closer, brushing a fingertip lightly across my arm. Confusion is the first step. Desire, fear, attraction, shame, they're all tangled together. And soon, you will feel them all at once. The next day, I found myself at the cafe she had chosen. He was already there, casual yet impossibly composed, those dark eyes holding a mixture of curiosity and warmth. My heart hammered as I approached. Each step felt heavy with both terror and exhilaration. He smiled as I reached him. Wow, you really are different. Beautiful. Heat rushed to my cheeks. The words, the attention, the forbidden admiration, they were electric, intoxicating. My mind screamed with shame, but another part of me, terrifyingly eager, leaned into it. Let it consume you. We sat together, talking, laughing, sharing moments that felt both normal and surreal. Every compliment, every subtle touch, every lingering glance chipped at the fragile line separating the boy I had been from the girl I was becoming. Her voice echoed in my thoughts, you will learn to feel everything at once. And I did. Shame, fear, guilt, desire, exhilaration, it all tangled into something chaotic and strangely beautiful. He reached across the table, brushing a strand of hair from my face. My chest constricted. I wanted to pull away, to resist, but my fingers tingled at the touch. Part of me craved more. Part of me wanted to disappear entirely. Later, alone, staring at my reflection, the truth sank in. This was no longer acting, no longer practice, no longer a disguise. I was her, physically, emotionally, dangerously close to accepting this as my identity. And yet, the pull of the past, the boy I had been, remained. A ghost whispering, this isn't real. You can still fight it. But with each reflection, each compliment, each glance, that ghost grew fainter. That night, she entered silently, her eyes gleaming with control. Tomorrow, she whispered, we test you in front of everyone you know, and everyone you never expected would see you like this. The morning felt heavier than usual, as though the air itself carried the weight of expectation. Today she had arranged something monumental. A gathering where every corner of my life could converge. The people I had once known, the strangers who had admired me, and even those who had doubted me. The ultimate stage for my transformation. I stared at my reflection in the full-length mirror, the dress flowing perfectly, makeup flawless, hair cascading in soft waves. The girl staring back was poised, radiant, and terrifyingly real. The boy I had been was buried beneath layers of polish, fabric, and curated emotion. She appeared silently behind me, her presence grounding and commanding. Today, she whispered, you won't just walk in public. You will exist as her. Every glance, every whisper, every heartbeat is part of the test. We arrived at a luxurious hall filled with people chatting, laughing, and drinking. The lights were bright, the music gentle but insistent. The room charged with subtle scrutiny. As we entered, every gaze seemed to settle on me, and I felt the invisible thread of exposure tighten around my chest. She guided me forward. Step into the light. Show them who you are now. I walked, heels clicking, heart hammering, every nerve screaming. Friends I hadn't seen in months looked at me in disbelief. Some whispering behind hands, others staring openly. Recognition sparked shock, admiration, and terrifyingly curiosity. Then he appeared. The boy from the cafe, the one whose attention had ignited something deep inside me. His gaze found mine and my chest constricted. Desire, fear, shame, all tangled in a knot I couldn't unravel. Wow, he whispered almost to himself. You're incredible. I felt my face burn, but I didn't look away. I couldn't. Part of me, terrifyingly large, dangerously alive, wanted the attention, craved it, even as another part screamed in panic. She stood beside me, silent, observing with the precision of a predator. Her hand brushed mine briefly, a reminder of her control. Every whisper, every glance, every heartbeat belongs to her now. And you will learn to revel in it. People began approaching, some with polite compliments, others with curious questions, lingering touches, and admiring glances. Every interaction shredded the remaining barrier between the boy I had been and the girl I had become. My voice was softer, my movements fluid, my smile automatic. But inside, chaos reigned. Then came a moment I couldn't escape. One of my old friends, someone I had trusted, someone who knew me as I once was, stepped forward. Recognition lit their eyes. Shock and awe mingling. "ISS, that really you?" they asked, hesitation in their voice. The room seemed to hold its breath. I could run. I could drop the act. I could reclaim the boy I had been. And yet I didn't. The heels felt heavier, my chest tighter, but my reflection in the mirror-like windows of the hall showed someone who was undeniably her. "Yes," I whispered softly. "It's me." A ripple went through the room. Shock, admiration, curiosity, but more than that, a subtle, dangerous fascination, and inside me, a shiver ran deep. The thrill of exposure, of attention, of undeniable beauty was intoxicating. By the end of the night, I was trembling, exhausted, and utterly transformed. The girl in the mirror smiled back at me, soft, radiant, and fully aware of her power. And deep down, I realized the boy I had been would never fully return. She leaned close, her voice a whisper only I could hear. "Now the world knows her, and soon someone will want more than just attention. Someone will want possession." The night settled into silence, heavy and suffocating, when she finally spoke. We were alone in the apartment, the city lights outside casting long, fractured shadows across the floor. I sank onto the couch, exhausted from the relentless exposure, the attention, the performance. My heels were discarded, dress slightly wrinkled, and makeup smudged at the corners of my eyes. "You've done exceptionally well," she said, her voice calm, measured, yet carrying an undertone of something darker, an edge that made my stomach tighten. I looked up, unsure how to respond. I did what you wanted. But why all of this? Why me?" Her gaze locked onto mine, piercing, and a slow, almost cruel smile spread across her lips. "Why you?" she repeated softly. "Because you were perfect, fragile, malleable, impressionable, and yet hiding a desire you didn't even understand yourself. I saw it the moment you hesitated in front of the mirror that first day." I shivered. The memory flashed vividly. The first touch of makeup on my skin, the first step in heels, the first whispered compliment that made my chest tighten. She had known. She had known exactly how to manipulate me. "You've been molded," she continued, stepping closer. Every glance, every whisper, every moment of humiliation, it was intentional to break the boy, awaken the girl, and make her irresistible to everyone, including yourself. The words hit me like a physical blow. My hands trembled. "You did this for what? For revenge? For control?" She knelt in front of me, her eyes softening just enough to confuse me. "Partly," she admitted, "but mostly because I wanted you. All of you, your new self, your body, your attention. I wanted to see if I could take someone entirely and make them belong to me." Heat surged through me. Not just fear, but something far more dangerous. Shame, excitement, and a pang of desire intertwined in a storm I could barely control. "You've changed," she said, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "And now you're entirely mine. The boy is gone. The girl is here, and everyone around you will see her, and I will decide who gets her attention next." My mind reeled. I wanted to scream, to run to reclaim the fragments of myself I could still grasp. And yet my body betrayed me. The thrill, the blush, the pulse in my veins. I hated that I responded. I hated that a part of me wanted this. Tomorrow, she whispered, leaning close, you will meet someone new, someone who will see you as she is and desire her, and you will have to decide what that means. Alone later, staring at the mirror, I touched my cheeks, lips, and eyes. The past tugged at me, a faint echo of the boy I had been whispering, this isn't real. You can still fight it. But with every reflection, every compliment, every lingering gaze, that echo grew fainter, more distant. That night, she appeared silently, her eyes glinting with command. Tomorrow, she murmured, we test you in front of everyone you know, and everyone you never imagined would see you this way. The morning air felt thick, almost oppressive, as though expectation itself had weight. Today, she had orchestrated something monumental, a gathering where every piece of my old life could collide with the new. Friends, strangers, doubters, admirers, all converging. The ultimate stage for my transformation. I studied myself in the full-length mirror. The dress flowed perfectly, makeup was impeccable, hair fell in soft, practiced waves. The girl reflected back at me was radiant, poised, terrifyingly real. The boy I had been was buried under layers of fabric, polish, and rehearsed grace. She appeared behind me, silent, grounding, commanding. You won't just walk in public today, she whispered. You will exist as her. Every glance, every murmur, every heartbeat is a part of the test. The hall was luxurious, bustling with laughter, conversation, the soft clink of glasses. Bright lights caught the shimmer of gowns, the shine of polished shoes. Every eye seemed to linger on me as we entered. She guided me forward. Step into the light. Show them who you are now. Heels clicked against the polished floor, heart hammering, every nerve ablaze. Friends I hadn't seen in months stared, whispers rippling through the crowd. Recognition, disbelief, curiosity, and admiration danced across their faces. And then he appeared, the boy from the cafe, whose gaze had sparked something deep inside me. Desire, fear, shame, thrill, a tangle in my chest I couldn't untangle. Wow, he breathed, almost to himself. You're incredible. My face burned, but I couldn't look away. A part of me, enormous and intoxicating, craved the attention even as another screamed in panic. She remained at my side, silent, her hand brushing mine briefly, a reminder that every heartbeat, every glance, every whisper belonged to her. People approached, some polite, some curious, others bold. Compliments, questions, lingering touches, admiring glances, all eroded the last barriers between the boy I had been and the girl I had become. My voice softened, my movements flowed, my smile came automatically, yet inside, chaos roared. Then came a moment I couldn't escape. One of my old friends, someone who had known me as the boy I had been, stepped forward. Recognition flared in their eyes. Is that really you? Their voice trembled between awe and disbelief. I could have fled, dropped the act, reclaimed the boy I had been. But I didn't. The heels pressed into my feet, my chest tightened, and yet my reflection in the mirrored windows showed someone undeniably her. Yes, I whispered. It's me. A ripple moved through the crowd, shock, admiration, fascination. Deep inside, a shiver ran through me, the addictive thrill of exposure, attention, undeniable beauty. By nightfall, I was trembling, exhausted, utterly transformed. The girl in the mirror smiled back, radiant, fully aware of her power. The boy I had been would never return. Later, in the apartment, she leaned close, whispering in my ear. Now the world knows her. Soon, someone will want more than attention, they will want possession. The city lights outside cast fractured shadows across the floor. I sank onto the couch, heels discarded, dress wrinkled, makeup slightly smudged. You've done exceptionally well, she said, calm, measured, but with a subtle edge that made my stomach clench. I did what you wanted. But why all this? Why me? My voice was small, uncertain. Her gaze pierced me, slow, deliberate, a smile curling at her lips. Why you? Because you were perfect. Fragile, malleable, impressionable, and hiding a desire you didn't yet understand. I saw it the moment you hesitated in front of the mirror that first day. I shivered at the memory, first touch of makeup, first step in heels, first whispered compliment. She had known. She had known exactly how to bend me. You've been molded, she continued, stepping closer. Every glance, every whisper, every moment of humiliation was meant to erase the boy and awaken the girl, to make her irresistible to everyone, even yourself. My hands trembled. You did this for, what? Revenge? Control? Partly, she admitted, voice softening, but mostly because I wanted you. All of you, this new self, your body, your attention. I wanted to see if I could take someone entirely and make them mine. Heat surged through me, fear, shame, excitement, desire, all tangled together. You've changed, she said, brushing a strand of hair from my face. And now you're entirely mine. The boy is gone. The girl is here, and everyone will see her, and I will decide who gets her attention next. I wanted to scream, to run, to reclaim the fragments of myself that lingered. But my body betrayed me. The thrill, the blush, the pulse in my veins, part of me wanted this. Tomorrow, she whispered, leaning close, you will meet someone new. Someone who will see her, desire her, and you will have to decide what that means. Alone later, I stared at the mirror, tracing my cheeks, lips, eyes. She was there, alive, dangerous, and impossibly real. The girl in the mirror stared back at me with impossible clarity. Soft waves framed her face, lips perfectly tinted, eyes wide and luminous, and the truth struck me like a cold, thrilling wind. I was already addicted to the attention, the performance, the identity she had carved from me. My phone buzzed, jolting me from the reflection. I've heard about you. Can we meet? The message sent my pulse spiraling, fear, excitement, and something unnamed coiling in my stomach. The next morning carried the weight of inevitability. Every sound in the apartment, the hum of traffic, the distant chatter, even the vibration of my phone, felt magnified, echoing that text like a drumbeat in my chest. I've heard about you. Can we meet? I tried to reason it away, convincing myself it was just another step in the endless game she had orchestrated, another test, another layer of the performance I had been trained to inhabit. But as I studied my reflection one last time, soft hair brushing my shoulders, perfectly sculpted lips, wide, vulnerable eyes, I knew this encounter would push me further than any before. She arrived silently, her presence filling the room like gravity. It's time, she said, calm, commanding, the familiar mixture of mentor, controller, and predator. Remember everything. Confidence, poise, allure, submission. You are hers now, and the world will see it. I swallowed hard, chest tight, stomach twisting with dread and anticipation. The cafe was quiet when we arrived, the calm a sharp contrast to the chaos of recent days. And there he was, tall, dark-haired, his gaze cutting through every layer of artifice I had carefully built. His smile was casual, magnetic. Hi, he said softly. I'm intrigued by you. Each word, each look, sent tremors through me. My face flushed, pulse spiking, tiny shivers crawling across my skin. We talked, our voices low, laughing at small jokes, sharing stories that felt both intimate and surreal. Every glance he cast me stirred the girl I had become, awakening her further. Part of me recoiled, desperate to protect the remnants of the boy I had been. But another part leaned in, craving his attention, hungering to be admired and desired. She was there too, across the cafe, silent, omnipresent, observing, guiding, magnifying every twitch, every tremor of my reaction. Her gaze was a cage and a stimulant, and I hated myself for needing it. Then he reached across the table, brushing a stray strand of hair from my face. My fingers tingled, my chest tightened, and a storm of shame, desire, and forbidden thrill collided inside me. You're extraordinary, he whispered, voice low and intimate, brushing against the raw edges of my control. The words sank deep into the girl I had become, making me tremble, not with fear, not entirely, but with something I couldn't name. I wanted to pull back, to disappear, to scream that I was still someone else beneath it all. And yet, every instinct betrayed me, my body, my reflection, my very heartbeat, all confirming what I already feared. I wasn't hiding anymore. I was hers. Fully, irrevocably, exposed. The moment we parted, I felt weightless, walking on a trembling high that mixed guilt, excitement, and a craving I couldn't name. Alone later, staring into the mirror, I saw the full scope of what had happened. The boy I had been was gone, erased by layers of fabric, makeup, and the careful shaping of her hands. In his place stood a girl who sometimes felt more alive than he ever had. That night, her voice whispered in my ear, warm and commanding. Tomorrow, you will confront desire, face temptation, and decide who you truly belong to. Morning sunlight spilled through the curtains, harsh and unyielding, reflecting the pressure of the day ahead. The past encounters, the constant attention, the slow unraveling of my old self, it had all been preparation. Today would test me in a way I had never imagined. She appeared silently, radiating authority. Today, you will see how deeply you crave attention, and how far you will go to claim it. My pulse twisted in my chest. Part of me wanted to run, to clutch at the remnants of the boy I had been. And yet, the girl I had become stirred with anticipation, her thrill for being seen and desired igniting inside me. The cafe was quiet, intimate, charged with unspoken tension. He was already there, dark eyes fixed on me, radiating something that was curiosity, admiration, and danger all at once. Each step toward him, heels clicking softly against the floor, felt like surrender. His voice was low, magnetic. Hi. I've been looking forward to this. Every word, every laugh, every brush of hands sent electricity through me. Shame collided with desire, fear with longing. I wanted to retreat, to cling to the boy I once was, but the girl in the reflections around us, the mirrors, the polished tabletops, responded instinctively. She had been trained to crave attention, to thrive in exposure, to revel in vulnerability. And now she did. Every compliment, every lingering glance stoked a fire I could no longer resist. His hand brushed mine, pulse igniting, and I felt the thrill wash over me, intoxicating, forbidden, consuming. Across the room, she observed, satisfaction gleaming in her eyes. Feel it, she whispered later, the power of being desired. The surrender is yours. Every tremor, every flush, every heartbeat belongs to her now. By evening, exhaustion and exhilaration left me trembling. Alone, I traced the curves of my cheeks, the softness of my lips, the allure in my eyes. The boy I had been felt impossibly distant, buried beneath the desire, transformation, and submission that had become my reality. Then my phone buzzed. I want to see you like no one else has. Are you ready? My pulse raced, mingling anticipation with fear and longing. I had no choice but to respond. Night approached, heavy with tension. Every sound, shadow, heartbeat amplified the thrill of what was coming. She appeared beside me, calm, commanding, unyielding. This is it, she whispered. The moment you've been moving toward. The world will see her, and so will you. You will choose who you belong to. On the rooftop, city lights glittering below, he waited. His gaze was dark, magnetic, consuming. Each step toward him was surrender, each heartbeat reminded me how far the transformation had gone. You're even more incredible than I imagined, he said. My face flushed, desire and shame colliding with a thrill that left me breathless. She stood behind me, silent, guiding, amplifying every reaction. Every emotion you feel is proof. The girl you've become is alive, powerful, irresistible. And now, you must choose. He leaned closer, brushing a strand of hair from my face. My fingers tingled, breath caught, and I realized the truth. I could no longer reclaim the boy I had been. This identity, the girl I had been molded into, shaped, and desired, was permanent. Not a costume, not a mask, not a fleeting performance. She was me. Tears pricked my eyes, not of sorrow, but release. Fully exposed, fully desired, fully alive. Yes, I whispered, voice trembling. I belong to her, to this life, to this world, to this power. She smiled, satisfied. Good. Now everyone will see what you have become. He took my hand, holding it gently, and the city below glittered like 1,000 witnesses to my transformation. I looked once more at my reflection in the glass. The girl staring back was radiant, confident, and alive. The boy I had been was gone. In his place stood someone who had endured exposure, temptation, and attention, and emerged transformed, powerful, self-assured, and irresistibly herself. The city stretched endlessly beyond the rooftop, full of desire, danger, and possibility. And I knew, in my bones, there would be no turning back. I had found not just acceptance, but exhilaration in the identity I had once feared, and now I was utterly, completely, her.